Who would you suspect if you heard that a body was found in a room? Well, normally you'd suspect the resident, you might think. But the case I'm introducing today is far from ordinary. This incident took place in the Kita ward of Nagoya, Aichi Prefecture in October in 2022. A 27-year-old woman visited the Ozone Station police box around 5:30 p.m. She told the police officer, "While cleaning out a storage space, I found the body of an unfamiliar baby." The officer accompanied her to the apartment, and sure enough, a baby's body was found. The infant appeared to be newborn, but the gender could not be determined because it had already been mummified. Based on her statement, the police did not treat the woman as a suspect, but as an important witness and questioned her further. This led to the emergence of her mother as the primary suspect. However, when the police attempted to question the mother, they learned that she had already passed away shortly before this incident. Subsequent DNA testing revealed that the baby had been dead for several years. Moreover, from the mother's remains it was determined that the infant was her child, making the baby the woman's sibling, either a brother or a sister. Normally a birth would be registered at a hospital, so it seems likely that the baby was secretly born in a non-medical setting. The woman who reported the discovery was likely unaware that her mother had given birth. I've heard she was deeply shocked. This is a strange case, but let's walk through it step by step. While the mother's age has not been disclosed, she was likely between 45 and 55 years old. It's unclear when she gave birth, but the baby passed away either shortly after or not long after birth. Later she kept the remains stored somewhere until it became mummified. After the daughter moved into the apartment, the mother frequently visited her. Then one day, the mother hid the body in her daughter's room and passed away sometime later. It wasn't until the daughter was cleaning in preparation for moving out that she discovered the remains. Why the mother chose to hide the body in her daughter's apartment remains a mystery. There is also no information about the father. If the woman had provided testimony about the baby's father and he were still alive, the police would question him as well. If there were any suspicion that the father was involved in the baby's death, the case could turn into a murder investigation. Even if the police were able to interrogate the father, he likely wouldn't provide incriminating testimony unless some form of evidence such as a letter from the mother were found. Otherwise, it would be difficult to pursue the case if the father simply claimed he had no knowledge of the pregnancy. This case has been reported in the official gazette, and the police are still seeking more information. I can only imagine the emotional impact on the woman who discovered her sibling in such a tragic way.
I'm sure I will never again experience something as mysterious as this in my life. The incident occurred on June 9th, 2004 at this wooden apartment building in Ikebukuro Yanchome, Tashima Ward in Tokyo. At the time I was working as a demolition worker and, as usual, I was scheduled to start the demolition process. Before demolishing a building, we inspect the structure and decide on the demolition procedures. After inspecting the first floor of the apartment, I began checking one of the rooms on the second floor. There I found a skeleton lying on its back on a futon. I immediately called the police, and naturally the demolition work was temporarily halted. When the police investigated, they found no signs of disturbance in the room, and it was also determined that the body had no external injuries. It was unlikely that the man had been involved in any crime, and the autopsy concluded that he had likely died of natural causes. The police found identification in the room and determined that the deceased was a man born in 1927 from Tokyo. They also discovered that the man had worked for a construction company and were able to contact his relatives. However, even the relatives did not know why the man had been living in this abandoned apartment. The police speculated that the man, facing financial hardship, had secretly lived in the abandoned apartment and died a lonely death. But there was something strange about the case. Everything in the room was more than 20 years old. The calendar was from 1984, and the newspaper on the table was dated February 20th, 1984. It was as if time had stopped in 1984 in that room. The room alone seemed to be left behind in time. Why did this happen? In fact, the apartment was built in 1972, and in 1984 the management company went bankrupt, leaving the building vacant. In other words, it is believed that the man began living in the apartment in 1984 after it was abandoned and died of illness shortly afterward, leaving his body undiscovered for 20 years. It remains unclear why the man chose to hide and live in this apartment. Unfortunately, with no further updates on the case, we may never know more than this. As the person who first discovered the body, all I can do is pray that he rests in peace. By the way, during police questioning of nearby residents, a male office worker gave a testimony. For about 20 years, it seemed like no one was around, but about 3 years ago, lights suddenly started appearing in the room. It was a creepy building. I'm surprised no one noticed the body for so long. This testimony suggests that someone may have been living there around 2001. However, when the police investigated all the rooms at the time of the incident, they found no signs of broken windows or unlocked doors, and there was no evidence of anyone entering from the outside. The building was abandoned for 20 years. Who was living in there then?